Namaste.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Filter Coffee with Rajesh Govindrajlu, that is myself. And today's subject is valor. There are 10. We have author number 3 and author number 4, not necessarily in that order, but in the order of my reviewing and discussion. And they are, Mr. M.R. Deepak, who's a writer himself, content developer, man who wears many hats. And if you have already ones who have not met him, I wish to introduce him as a resident of Bengaluru, who is in management, education, training consultant. He has worked at the Royal University as dean and controller of exams, and his topics are wide and diverse. His book by Abhimanyu is praiseworthy, where he spent 100 pages in the book only writing about the war, which even Rajaji had refused to do so, because Rajaji said the war is best left in a different manner. But of course, I will agree with G.V. Shivakumar. He was telling me that in that less than 300 pages, Rajaji has encapsulated the Mahabharata in the best manner without leaving any feature out. That I will 100% agree, because my first reading of the Mahabharata by Rajaji was when I was hardly 14 years old, when I was 13 years old. We are now talking about the redeeming of Ghatotkacha by G.V. Shivakumar. Let me introduce G.V. Shivakumar to you. He belongs to Gundulpet, IT professional once again, IITN, enthusiast of ancient Indian epics, Puranas and Vedic philosophy. The Mahabharata, Rigveda and concept of seasons and rivers of India are his chief inspirations. Very interesting. Shivakumar writes on Mahabharata in the Indic today. He also runs his blog Samanya Jivi. He is definitely not a Samanya Jivi. For himself, he is humble best, and he enjoys telling Puranas and Itihasas to kids. He considers the Mahabharata as most suited to give a perspective of our Sanatana. Today is the 29th of October 2020, and we are talking about the 14th day. Abhimanyu was killed on the 13th day in a very treacherous manner. Arjuna takes a note on the 19th, on the night day. He says that he will extinguish the life of the Sindhu king or Saindava before sunset of the 14th day. Otherwise, he would immolate himself in fire. So the Kauravas consider this to be a godsend opportunity to get rid of Arjuna. And therefore, Jayadratha is kept in the innermost ring of the Kaurava army. Arjuna keeps fighting, going inside. Very interesting. But now, we are also concerned with Ghatotkacha, the son of Bhima and Hidimba. Telling me the other day that the Pandavas went on exile on 3 occasions. The first time after the Lakshagriha, when they went to Ekachakrapura, then Bhima killed Bakasura, and then after that, he marries Hidimba and Ghatotkacha. They moved to the Panchalam, marry Draupadi, return to Hastinapura, receive Indraprastha. This is the second time they're in the forest. When was the first time? First time is because they're born in the forest only. With their father, mothers, Kunti and Madri, grew up for some years in the Kunti to Hastinapura after the death of Pandu and the Sati of Madri. That's the time. And well, when is the third time? The third time is when Shakuni and Duryodhana sent them into exile for 12 years of exile and 1 year of incognito. So the Pandavas are damn lucky, I must say, compared to people of today. I wonder why they wanted to come back to the city. There's so much of noise these days. But they wanted to come to the city not to enjoy life, but to lead a life of dharma, to offer a good role, to rule and a good role when it came to the people of Indraprastha, Hastinapura, and the rest of the country. They wanted to give Rajya, and that was their intention. That is why they kept everything else above themselves. Though it looks like a fight between two sets of castes, and though it looks like as though Pandavas were desperate for the kingdom and therefore they declared war, the truth is that the Pandavas wanted the kingdom back not just for ruling, but just to govern the people of Hastinapura in a very, very good manner. That was the interest of the Pandavas. So on the 14th day, Ghatotkacha gets into the war. And let us look at the narration of Mr. G.V. Shivakumar briefly. Ghatotkacha was huge. His eyes were red, glow. Today, I'm sure the beauty parlors are offering all kinds of streaking colors. And if somebody wants to do a fancy dress competition with trying to be Ghatotkacha, they can really come out immaculately as the original one. With a large body, his stomach seemed long and deep, straightened itself in anticipation of everything that was to come. Wow, hair straightening again. So much of money spent on it, but Ghatotkacha had it normally those days. We have to understand that Ghatotkacha was in war for all the days. And there were days when father struggled in battle and he was upset about it. However, the 14th day for Ghatotkacha is very, very special. That succeeds the death of Abhimanyu, and that was the day when Arjuna had taken an oath to kill Jayadratha, and lots of magic field. The description of G.V. Shivakumar is very, very interesting. There is an imaginary conversation between Hidimba and Ghatotkacha, where the Draupadi. I saw Mother Draupadi. In her eyes, I saw fire, but her face was a calm grace. Whenever she spoke to her, her face was filled with fury. Father remained calm only in the presence of Mother Draupadi. He always listened to her, but was impatient with others. I heard that she was equally furious while talking to Krishna. Ghatotkacha says, Mother, nobody can be angry with Krishna for long. His smile is so compelling. When he speaks, people simply listen. Abhimanyu never tired of speaking, was never tired. The stories Krishna told him when he was in the womb, war accounts of earlier times, extraordinary warcraft, all in those few days. Like his uncle, his smile too is charming. His mother too has the same smile as Krishna, but she's very innocent. Then they talk about Alambusha and Alayudha. G.V. Shivakumar has gone into the description in a very beautiful way. He talks about the kinds of magic that were wrought into was brought upon into the battlefield. And these pieces of magic caused great difficulties for the Kaurava army, and lots of them perished. And of course, I had to call demons like to fight with Ghatotkacha, and these demons were all destroyed by him. Finally, the purpose of the birth of Ghatotkacha, the purpose of the birth of Abhimanyu. It's very interesting. Both are the sons of Arjuna and Bhima. Abhimanyu was killed in order to ensure that Yudhishthira is not taken prisoner. So Abhimanyu has sacrificed his life in order to safeguard the side of Dharma. So he persons today who should be awarded a Paramveer Chakra. And this Ghatotkacha, he knew fully that there could be weapons which are beyond his comprehension which can attack him, like the Shakti Ayudha, which was with Karna. Ghatotkacha unleashes fury in war, and we are told that thought about it for a number of times, whether he should use it or not, because he had reserved Arjuna. But finally, the havoc created by Ghatotkacha forced Karna to use the Shakti Astra on Ghatotkacha, and Ghatotkacha went into it fully, knowing fully well what. And there are accounts which say that he expanded his body into a big mass and fell on a large portion of the Kaurava army and killed them, so that a part of them are destroyed. So these two sons, he can also be awarded the Paramveer Chakra. And these are the two sons. And by the way, the Paramveer Chakra, inside the features has the Vajra. And Vajra is nothing but the backbone of Dadichi. Can we believe that India then at the dawn of independence could think of having the backbone of Dadichi on the Paramveer Chakra? Can we ever dream of doing that today? Indeed. So Shivakumar's narration, is very, very interesting. Alambusha covered him with arrows. Ghatotkacha then took on Karna, Alambusha and the entire Kurusena. Alambusha had never seen Ghatotkacha in battle. He could not help acknowledging the Maya Ghatotkacha unleashed match. Ghatotkacha's valor greatly disturbed the Kurusena. They began to run helter-skelter, trampling themselves. Alambusha abandoned his destroyed chariot and began a physical duel. He had Ghatotkacha with his fist, that even he shook and wavered with the strike. In anger, he assaulted Alambusha from all sides and pummeled his body in many ways. Alambusha fell on the ground. Ghatotkacha lifted him and kept thrashing him to the ground, pounding him like floor. Oh my goodness. With difficulty, dodged and pushed Ghatotkacha. Finally, after some time, Ghatotkacha decided to end the battle. He flew into on Alambusha as a wall spray on the ground. He helped Alambusha firmly, lifted him, and with great force of the swing stuck him to the ground. Alambusha could not hold his life and cried. Ghatotkacha lifted his sword in a single fierce swing, cut the head of Alambusha, was struggling to escape from the hold. He held Alambusha's severe head in his hands, went to Duryodhana and offered him with the loud, wicked laughter of a Rakshasa. Trophy. He has given a memorabilia to Duryodhana. I have slain this Rakshasa very dear to you. You'll meet the same end, and of course your friend Karna as well. You're a king and I cannot meet you empty-handed. Here is your gift for me. Accept it. Your happiness will be short-lived. O Duryodhana, be it so till I slay Karna. It appears that brother Arjuna kills Karna. The rest of the princes, including Abhimanyu, kept sparing the Kaurava brothers because Bhima had taken an oath to kill all the 100. But here, there was no botheration. He just went full blast and was ready to extinguish. Beautifully conveyed. Upasamhara in the conclusion, Shivakumar says, Ghatotkacha drove into Karna for the glory of his ancestors and for fame that would live forever. The 14th day was a very long night. He has not given us the climax, but we can understand. Krishna alone knew better. For what lay in store for Ghatotkacha was a splendor that Karna concealed for days. Krishna smiled. Karna, your Vasava, Shaktya-yuda. Nobody saw that smile. Krishna, the all-pervading, the all-knowing, the great yogi, knew everything. And therefore, he knew what he to place people, place situations. And Krishna was the puppeteer, and the Akshohini, which consisted of 39,000, 96,000 and 600 soldiers, plus horses and elephants. In the 18 Akshohinis were all his puppets or pawns. He was there to establish or re-establish Dharma. And for the purpose of re-establishing Dharma, during the entire Dasavata period, Lord Vishnu had incarnated on us. One of the times he killed Hiranyaksha, on another time he killed Hiranyakashipu, another time he pulled and sent Mahabali down, and then as Parasurama, 21 generations of Kshatriyas misrule. So a modern Parasurama today in the world, maybe we don't know. And then as Rama to put an end to Ravana, and then as Krishna once again. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya dushkrutam dharma samsthapanartha yuge. In order to protect the good, destroy the evil, and establish righteousness, I keep coming once again and again. Yuge, yuge. Though it is different, Sambhavami, election samaye. So we have the story of Ghatotkacha. I urge all of you to read this book and close your eyes and for a moment think of this. I'm sure Indica can serial with 10 parts. With all these, or it can go through Netflix or Amazon Prime. It will be a superb watch because the narration is simply fantastic. Like, mighty Rakshasas threw deadly weapons at each other. When they exhausted them, the nearby trees were uprooted, followed by the trees of Rakshasa mountains. The immense sound defense. It reminded many of the final battles of Vali and Sugriva. Oops, the breath, blood, and sweat. And again, Alayudha is killed. Single-handedly, we should understand Ghatotkacha was capable of winning the war. Single-handedly, Arjuna was capable. Single-handedly, Bhima. Single-handedly, Satyaki was capable. Single-handedly, Drishtadyumna was capable. But yet, they had a form. They fought the Kauravas and finished them. See, Adharma can be very easily destroyed. Adharma is 1.5 times 11 Akshohinis for the Kauravas and 7 Akshohinis. So they will and destroy Adharma. Now I wish to, or rather claim your attention towards Shivakumar before I go to Mr. Deepak. I wish to ask what motivated him to take up this chapter. And he also coordinates with a lot of these Indic authors. I'm curious to know how, in spite of his busy schedule, he manages with all this. Who's his inspiration and where does he get all this material from? Over to you, sir. It's all.
Thank you so much, Rajesh ji. So I'll answer the first question.
all yours.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
you
I'll
are.
answer the first question. Um, why did I pick Ghatotkacha? I picked Ghatotkacha for three reasons. First, he is very dramatic. You know, he's at once loved, also a Rakshasa, a gigantic fear. There is a sense of fear also. The entire story of Ghatotkacha, the journey is, quite dramatic, uh, very easily imaginable. It will relate with people, and even the culture has imagined Ghatotkacha in different ways. For example, in Mahabharata, there is very less actually about Ghatotkacha, except the war part. The earlier parts is not, to a great extent. But in Telugu, you have Shashirekha Parinayam, which is very popular, and the entire Maya Bazaar movie is there. As a kid, when I read the Ghatotkacha Amara Chitra Katha, the tragic end of Ghatotkacha was very moving. And the fact that the second reason was that there is a sacrifice involved in it. And it struck me that I couldn't digest as a kid that all the next generation Pandavas, they die, Finally, you have only Parikshit left. That was very disconcerting, and I used to wonder, why is Mahabharata, written this way. So after many years, I came to appreciate that there is an element of sacrifice involved, in the path of dharma, whether it is Abhimanyu or whether it is Ghatotkacha or the Upapandavas. Now, Pandavas have to lose significantly, in order to gain something. And what is it that they gained? They gained only the responsibility to establish dharma. So this point was very, uh, as a kid it was disturbing, but it took many years to appreciate that, this angle. And Ghatotkacha represents the best example, if not Abhimanyu, because he's a Rakshasa and he did not have to come into this war. And of course, they had promised Bhima that whenever Bhima wants, he comes. And whenever Bhima called, he does come. So the third reason was there was a lot of opportunity to imagine, because, if there are only bits and pieces of the story, and, when I connected them, I saw the possibility of a conflict between Ghatotkacha and Hidimba that could throw light on Mahabharata from a ring side. What could have happened there, and how could they have, imagined Abhimanyu and Draupadi? And in Vyasabharata itself, Ghatotkacha comes to, help Draupadi and the Pandavas to move from a lower point in the forest to a higher point in the forest. And Draupadi was very tired at that time. It was an opportunity for me to imagine what Draupadi might have thought of Ghatotkacha, and how could that relationship may have been established. So the possibility of an imagination also drove me to, pick this story. And of course, the fourth angle is there, that, this story also represents the fact that, there is an engagement between the Pandavas, the Kshatriyas, and the Rakshasa Kula in this process. So, in this process, there is an integration happening, whereas this integration is failing on the Kaurava side, actually. Kauravas only want to use the Rakshasas. The Pandavas did not want to use the Rakshasas. So I think in this engagement, the forest and the city is also, there is an interaction between the two. So this is another angle that made me, pick this story. Yeah, my inspiration is Mahabharata, and another inspiration is River Saraswati. I believe that the consciousness represented, the flow of consciousness represented by river Saraswati, that represents the Sanatana tradition. As we begin to understand and bring back the river Saraswati consciousness from the Vedas and Mahabharata and so on and so forth, I believe we will also reclaim our civilization. That is my second inspiration. Of course, writing is and writing and reading are so enjoyable, and Indica provides a great platform for that. I'm extremely thankful. In fact, I'm more than having to create time. I'm thankful for the satsanga that Indica offers.
And very interesting to listen of the co-authors and the editors, the publishers and readers. We are grateful to you, sir, to be part of Sangha. And also your very good words when you spoke about the Saraswati civilization. Gaya or Siddhpur is located on the banks of the Saraswati civilization. The Thar desert, which turned out civilization, or parts of it may be. And all the Sharda Lipi, which Indica is trying to revive. The Sharda civilization,
Yeah,
the Saraswati civilization, the Ganga civilization. And Aryans are all Indians, Dravidians are all Indians. There's
absolutely.
no discrimination or difference between. And I'm grateful to, and on behalf of the readers of Indica and their noted and noble authors, I offer humble pranams to each one of you. And the time that you do this, call it satsanga. And I'm sure many more books are in the offing, projects of it.
Yeah. In fact, this anthology was curated by Sai Swarupa. All of us know the famous author. She recently released Rukmini, and then now Avishi has. There is a re-release of Avishi, and the next, like this, I'm curating one more book called Indic Women of Substance, in which 10 different authors, Deepak also is one of the authors, have written about 10 women of ancient India, from the Vedas, from the Mahabharata, and so on. And we have just completed the review, rewrite the creative process. So we should proceed towards the next steps right now. So I'm eagerly looking forward to the release of Indic Women of Substance. Hopefully in the next few months it should come out. So that is what is my current focus. And fundamentally, that is about bringing our.
What new?
Pardon me?
Maybe we'll end up meeting more. Enormous number of authors and also a number of books. You have these titles and comics from the Western world. I think the initiative has come out really, really well. And at least 1,000 books will help us to retain India.
Yeah. I think the way the way Indica has been promoting and creating books and authors, I'm sure that revolution will happen in the coming years. I think River Saraswati is flowing in these books and in these initiatives.
Very true, very true. So I will now do I'll speak about Bhagadatta in the same book, and we'll go forward to
Yeah.
Bhagadatta, the warrior king from the east, by Mr. M.R. Deepak. Very interesting. Child along grandfather, maternal grandfather. And I remember the battle where Bhagadatta was involved. On his, he was on his powerful elephant, and he came from Pragyojisha, the eastern part of India, and he happens to be the son of Narakasura. Bhagadatta was a very old. This war took place, and he would, be a terror in war. So Bhagadatta, the son of Narakasura, had actually sought the blessings of Krishna at the instance of Bhumi Devi, his paternal grandmother. And he happens to be the grandchild of Vishnu as Varaha in that sense. But here Bhagadatta was very clear. He prepared himself. He was very old. He was full of scars from the previous battles he had fought. He was so old that the skin of his forehead sagged and drooped, covering his eyes. To prevent the drooping skin from obstructing his vision, he used a cloth band. He tied it on his forehead to keep the skin firmly in place. I can imagine a very old Bhagadatta, maybe 100 years old, or even older, coming into battle on his fine elephant called Supratika. And here they talk about Datta, being very affectionate to the elephant. He strokes its trunk, and he feeds fruits to it. And the assistants adorn the elephant with armor and jewelry. Nowadays, we never get to see with armor and jewelry. Of course, they have fruits, they have other kinds of, they're decked with, routine celebratory material. The elephant's trunk and body had strong armor plates made of gold. The armor plate on the trunk had jewelry in it, made exclusively. Wow, being a jeweler, I'm attracted to the ornaments worn by a huge golden colored umbrella provided seat. Atop the umbrella was a standard bearing the flag of Pragyojisha. Supratika had its fill and then sat down, allowing Bhagadatta to climb on his seat. It was a magnificent seat. Large sea. Kings preferred a mahout to control their elephant, but Bhagadatta chose to sit alone. Only he gently prodded the elephant with the iron hook, and the great animal moved ahead. Bhagadatta's army followed him. Garuda Vyuha was for that day when Bhagadatta fought the battle, and he was in charge of the flanks. So, from Drona whether he had performed well, and Drona tells Bhagadatta he had already performed well by having good encounters with Bhima and Ghatotkacha. And the war between these soldiers, fantastic, and the entire Pandava army is drawn towards Bhagadatta, and it is a very, very difficult battle for the Pandavas. The elephants crushing soldiers. Are we not Alexander elephants? Unfortunately, someone spun a fine web saying that he defeated for proof for that anyway. And that when the Mongols tried to come into India, first few occasions, simply seeing the elephants on the banks of the Indus flee. The elephant was a great thing, and in this war, Bhagadatta's elephant is the hero amongst the elephants. You know, in each war there is a Bhagadatta is a hero, and his elephant is also another hero. Old aged king on a caparisoned elephant, coming with spears, swords, maces, bows, arrows, jumping into the Pandava army, annihilating princes, killing captains, destroying chariots, stamping horses, making other elephants in the Pandava army get scared and run away. All this was happening with Bhagadatta around. This elephant which was trained to perfection, and it did not any advice. It knew. So Bhagadatta did not have to do much of a thing. All he had to just sit on the elephant and go around. It was, like a car fixed with artificial intelligence. But the elephant was originally intelligent according to mistake. And, you can see Bhima getting caught between the legs of this elephant, and the Pandavas getting worried if whether Bhima was alive or not. Bhagadatta himself was confused. But it was very interesting. Bhagadatta was confused all the while, not knowing what was happening. Now that he saw Yudhishthira attack, he relished the challenge. He used his elephant hook like a mace and swatted away all the... Imagine this old king, he like a magic wand, he has the angusam, or the hook used by the mahout of the elephant, solid one, probably made of gold. And the best of alloys, this could be, but the writing is so good, I'm able to visualize hair and thick eyebrows, forehead, and up his forehead with all rings, yet fierce and strong, with determination and grit, he fights. The elephant realizes that Bhima had... The elephant never gets perturbed in this war. Finally, and in this war, if we see, the elephant and Bhagadatta, both of them are killed one after the other. Arjuna fights, and it is very difficult for Arjuna because Bhagadatta uses the Narayanastra or the Vaishnavastra. It was a unique weapon given by Vishnu to Naraka. And this Astra, the Pasupatastra and the Brahmastra, are weapons of mass destruction. They could cause great danger. So this Vaishnavastra, Bhagadatta, on Arjuna, Krishna got up and released and received this Astra because he was none other than Narayana himself. And the Astra just disappeared. And thing happened to Krishna. It became a garland of lotuses and fell on his neck. You remember seeing this scene in the movie where Krishna gets up and Arjuna chiding him later, but there was no other choice. It had to be taken care of. The Vaishnavastra otherwise would have killed Arjuna, and the war would have come to an end. That would have taken over. So Supratika is also killed in war, and so is Arjuna. The narration given to Supratika with regard to physical appearance of Bhagadatta, the manner in which he gets up from his bed, how he moves out of his tent, how he looks after the elephant, and how the elephant charges, and how tall the elephant must be for every trembling Pandava army, and how in spite of all that Bhagavadatta is vanquished in war, and how Arjuna, finishes him off, and Arjuna gets down from his chariot and bows in front of Bhagadatta, who had been a friend of King Pandu. So we get to know a little bit of the flashback thanks to Mr. Deepak. All this is not found in Rajaji's Mahabharata, but in the brief on the battle is very interesting. The fight between Burisravas and Kritava. Burisravas, there is a battle. Kritavarma, there is a battle. How each of the old soldiers fight and they get destroyed. There's so much more to see. Drishtaketus Chetita Chekitanastya Kasi Rajyasya Viryavan. Each name comes out at the beginning of the war when Sanjaya podcasts to the blind Dhritarashtra. And then he continues to podcast. That was the first live broadcast in the world. And that too of a battle. And so India was so advanced that they could see all this and share. Unfortunately, it was written down by Vyasa and passed over the ages by several people in the last 5,000 years or so, or maybe 3,500 years, they say. So we have these stories today thanks to Vyasa and his scribe Ganesha. So what happened? Vyasa took Ganesha, and Ganesha said, I will not stop to write. And Vyasa insisted that you have to understand before you write. So here and there he gave some tough verses, and Ganesha took a little bit of time before he could write. And here, we have all these modern day Ganeshas. The Indic authors are the incarnations of Ganeshas who are removing the obstacles for us and helping us to unravel the Mahabharata, which was given by Vyasa. And kudos to all of you. You are giving us the Vyasa Bharata in a wonderful manner. Each chapter, each author, each work is like a gem. And each of these gems, whether you look at them alone or whether you look at them in garland in an anthology or in any, can be looked upon like an ornament. Any which way, all of them are very valuable. I now, wish to ask Deepak as to why he jumped from Abhimanyu to Bhagadatta. Must have been as old as being a great-great-grandfather of Abhimanyu. Well, Abhimanyu was a super young man. They say 16 years of age, don't know exactly. What motivated him to take up Bhagadatta, and where did he find? Does the Mahabharata have enough study material on Bhagadatta to show it in such a good manner and to give such a graphic description of the war between Bhagadatta, Bhima, Ghatotkacha, Arjuna, and the Vaishnavastra, Krishna getting up and the garland of lotuses falling? Oh man, somebody has to really do a lot of research to pick something, at least read 10 or 20 books. Every week I read one book to do a meet filter coffee with the authors. In spite of my schedule, somehow I managed to do that. I'm sure each one of you must be having even more punishing schedules than me. How do you manage and how do you get the energy to do this? So who is the inspiration for each one of you? And particularly to you, Mr. Deepak. Why did you choose Bhagadatta? When you look at the Asterix comics, pediatrics, but there he comes in as a weak. But here Bhagadatta comes in as the strong old Indian. So you're showing India at its best from every age, from the age of Dhruva, Prahlada, a child inside the womb, Abhimanyu, Prahlada is inside the womb, Ashtavakra was a kid inside the womb. One released the father, sacrificed his life for his father, another gave up his life for his uncle, one corrected the father, one won the love of the father. So many. And finally you go up to Bhishma, you go up to Bhagadatta. It appears that he may even be older than Bhishma. Nothing of that sort. I think at the time of war, they say the Pandavas by 70 years of age. And maybe Bhagadatta must be years of age, if I'm not wrong. Nevertheless, now over to Mr. Deepak. I would like to answer these questions for our readers. I'll be grateful.
I can hear you, Deepak.
Okay, I think I'll continue. So, why I chose Bhagadatta was because of he and Supratika, the way they fought the war. So, there are other instances also during the previous days of the war when they had participated. But the major action happened on that day when they launched a furious assault. So, there have been instances in the Mahabharata wherein one warrior created such a havoc that it seemed as though they would take the battle away. Like we had seen Abhimanyu, it had happened with the case of Abhimanyu, and like as Shiv Kumar has written about Ghatotkacha. So there was no option but for Karnat but to use the Vasavi Shakti. Now in this case also, Bhagadatta was so fierce that he defeated Bhima twice. The first time Bhima had to get below the elephant to escape, and then he has to leave because he has no option. Then he comes back in a chariot, and Bhagadatta blows the Supratika blows the chariot away. So such was the strength of the elephant. So this part of the story, reading this, motivated me to write about Bhagadatta. And one more thing, when we look at him as a king, we know that Naraka was considered an evil king, but there is no such thing about Bhagadatta. Maybe he was, we don't know. There is no mention about Bhagadatta being an evil king or being on the side of Adharma. It is just that he chose the wrong side to participate in the war. So it was inevitable that he would die. And another interesting thing, there is a story in the Mahabharata about a sage called Supratika, who is cursed by his brother to become an elephant. So probably this is the same Supratika. So there is a mention in another text that he was of the same lineage as Airavata. And there was no doubt that Supratika was the largest elephant in the battlefield. So all these factors made the Bhagadatta and Supratika combination very exciting from the point of view of an author. So he was on the other side, the side of Adharma, but there is nothing to say that he was evil as Duryodhana or the others. So that was the reason why I chose to write about Bhagadatta. So like we see in the end, finally, he's killed by Arjuna. And there's another interesting thing which happens there. Now, the elephant tries to destroy the chariot, but Krishna quickly takes the chariot to the side. So Arjuna could have killed from the side, but he refuses because he is known as Bibhatsu. He never fights unfairly in battle. So he waits for Bhagadatta and the elephant to turn towards him, and then he fights him head on. And finally, he uses the Vaishnavastra, and then Krishna protects him. Now, as long as he had the Vaishnavastra, he had power. Now that the weapon was over, so there was no option, and Arjuna could kill Bhagadatta easily. In fact, I came across a story somewhere else which said that Arjuna first shot an arrow on the cloth that covered his head. So when that cloth got cut, the sagging skin covered his eyes, so he could not see, and then he killed him. There is that story also. So all this information that I came across, so that motivated me to write about Bhagadatta. So in the end, finally, he dies and he gets released and goes back to wherever he came from. So this is about my story from Bhagadatta. And you are asking about what is the inspiration to write. So the Mahabharata itself is an inspiration. So it is like you cannot describe the Mahabharata as a story. It is not a mere story. It is thousands and thousands of stories put together. So we can write innumerable books about the Mahabharata. That's the beauty of the Mahabharata. So the Mahabharata inspires me to write. And of course, like I told last time, the process of me becoming an author, I have to once again thank Sai Swarupa, because it was her tweets that motivated me to start to read the original text of the Mahabharata, which I had never done so. And then, of course, her support made me a published author. So she is also an inspiration for me. And like Mr. Shivkumar said, curating a next anthology, which is on Indic women of substance. So I'm happy to
listen. And we hope to listen more often. And it was nice to have the two of. In fact, we were wondering from the Veranda Club authors on a single, and then somehow Vyasa himself gave the way. We thought we will take 2 chapters and 2 authors per week, and enter Diwali, the Mahabharata, and see Diwali Naraka Chaturthi next week, and we've got Bhagadatta, and that Diwali. So thanks to both of you for giving your valuable time, and all of us are trying to give our own desi moments, and all this is very important because these are these books, movies and serials which made Western civilization and culture popular globally, and it made it look as though that it was very interesting. And there was also this call, they said, Sanatana Dharma has nothing clever in it. The people who are practicing it are all dumb. India is a country of magicians. But here we find people from the IIT, IIM, Harvard, best universities in India and the world coming back to write these marvelous stories. And I suppose the intellectual bank which is found with the Indic denizens is the best in the world. I don't see any highly qualified graduate set up in any other part of the world which can the attention and intellectual capital to the extent of the. So I wish to state this on record because there are so many movements, economic movements like the movement, the socialist movement, this movement, that movement, and they say there are intellectuals in all those movements, and their books are great. The social justice movement, the atheist movement, the agnostic movement, and a new movement which talks about linguistic superiority and racial superiority, linguistic and racial fundamental. When you go through each one of those Indic books, language is superior, the concept is superior, the approach is egal, the authors are very humble, it is beautifully presented, the prose is very interesting, put any author to shame globally. Follow and appreciate. See, for people things, I know the Mahabharata, so why should I read the unsung valor? There's no Rajaji, and then I think Kamala Subramaniam is also one more. But once you read 10, then you read this unsung valor which comes. You will understand why in the positive make use of it once again. So there's no, you will be in for a big surprise because there's so much that we found in this consisting of these 10 stories. I can just imagine 200 odd pages having so much of unknown information for, and think of the others, or they're very intelligent in their own sphere of activity with hardly much time for anything else. Their best way to get India of the past is to read Unsung Valor once again, or ensure that a great India comes over once again during our lifetime. Thank you, Kumar, dear Deepak. I'm grateful to both for spending time with us, telling me that he had a very bad cold. The coming week we'll take a short. We'll celebrate Diwali and come back to Unsung Valor.
Lost him?
Yeah, looks like.
I think he left.
I think eventually have a conclave where all of you
Shall
can
we
meet
exit?
all of us. We should have autographed copies of available for readers.
Yeah, I think we can exit.
Yeah, because it shows him as host, but not
Yeah,
as the
but
speaker.
he's not there.
Yeah.
Is he there?
No, can't
He's
see.
not there.